I'm your host, Donna Cates, and each week we'll dive into powerful stories, expert strategies, and practical tools to help you take charge of your financial future. Whether you're planning for retirement, navigating a divorce, or simply looking to build your wealth with confidence, this is your space to grow, learn, and thrive. Let's get started with today's podcast. Hello, everybody. I'm super excited to introduce you today to Olivia Martinez, who is the founder of Venus Elements. And Olivia, I'm delighted to have you, and I'm really excited to delve deep into your career journey and learn more about what you do. So, if you could take a few seconds and share with us what it is you do and why you got into it, that would be awesome.
Absolutely. I'm the founder of Venus Elements. We are a creative marketing agency. So it really started as like me alone doing marketing support for a couple brands. Well, I really started in-house in marketing and then branched out onto my own. And when I went out onto my own, was supporting a couple brands. But then over time, it has grown into a small dedicated team of creatives who really know how to turn strategy into execution. And we specialize in what I call essential content. And that's like email, social media campaigns, but that are delivered with communications strategy as being the core of it. Like we're not looking for necessarily viral moments, but we're looking to really communicate what is really important for the brand to communicate. So we say, it's not about it just like looking good on a mood board, but it's about really performance and making sure that the design does communicate something, the words communicate something, and everything is built with more of a job to do. So when I was, in-house, I felt like I would watch teams have a lot of conversations about messaging and what we should communicate and how we should communicate it, but there was so little like communication actually reaching outside of the doors into the public. And I in part because it's not easy, you have your internal team, everyone's really busy. It really takes a very strong routine to say, okay, we're going to put X amount of, emails out a week. We're going to do X amount of SMS. We're going to do X amount of posts and have them not just be, things that like might look pretty or be fluffy, but that actually like mean something to people and invite the customer in a way. So I do work with mission driven brands who have some like something, something that really sparks that they're looking to communicate, but sometimes it's hard to find the means to communicate it. And we just help build systems that are both beautiful, like we do care about the aesthetic. We do want it to really be something that the brand is proud of, but that's also repeatable. That's part of a routine. And so you can go from like, we know what we want to say to we're genuinely out there saying it like on a daily basis or a weekly basis. So we just fill that gap to take it from the vision to the actual pushing it out in the world.
Yeah, awesome. And I can tell you personally with the marketing that I do, my world, my niche is financial planning, money
Yeah.
management, investing, and all the things that do with money. And
Yeah.
a lot of times I'm talking in my lingo and not necessarily what somebody would use in layman's terms, right? So having somebody like you that can take my words and turn it into something that's going to be consumable, understood, and appreciated by the consumer, and then and
Absolutely.
then draw them to take action. That's what we
Absolutely.
need help with, right?
Absolutely. And it's also thinking through like where in the journey is this person? Because, it may be some of the people that you attract might know some of the lingo. If you're looking for them to join in the mix while they're between this point and this point, it depends where that journey starts. Because in some cases, we're not necessarily speaking to beginners. We are looking for that more elevated consumer, but it just depends. It depends, like, what is the product? What is the mission of this product? And how do we really want to get it into hands? And just really thinking it through, but not thinking it through to the point where you don't just do it. Because I think that, you could get so stuck on perfection that it's just not useful, and it has to just go out. And it's a great way to test. If it went out and kind of flopped, oh well, next, move on. You just keep on going and find the messages that do resonate. And I do think when it comes to a brand like yours, you're passionate about what you do. Like, you already have experienced a transformation, and now you're sharing that transformation with people. So I think that that has a natural resonance. But I think that that doesn't always come easy for everyone to kind of speak to that passion, and that is where we want to hone in and say, okay, like, tell us all about this vision and passion, and like, let's chunk this up into like really usable pieces that we
That's
can put
awesome.
out into the world. Yeah,
Well, and I have to say personally, I'm grateful for people that have the skill sets like you and your creatives, because I have all kinds of ideas. It's like, "Ooh, ooh, ooh," I got great
yeah,
ideas, but putting it into action in a way that makes sense is always challenging for me. So I would
absolutely.
love for you to share with us what you see as the biggest problem in your industry right now and how you're working to solve that issue.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I touched on it earlier in saying that, sometimes there's just a gap between the strategy and the execution, because there's a lot of brilliant, marketing minds, but sometimes in order to actually get the what is in their minds out into the world, you need like a video editor, you need a graphic designer, you need a copywriter. It could require a lot of moving parts that a brand can't hire in house, and that it's just too much to have like all this creative team. So in a way, we're like your plug-in creative team. We do bespoke packages so that it's unique to the needs. Because what if you did have the graphic designer, but you didn't have the copywriter and you didn't have the video editor? Like, I feel like we should be able to support the team and to be able to help it grow, and get to the point where you can hire in-house of all those things. But oftentimes that's a pretty big brand that would have all of those roles as complete in-house positions. And then the other thing that can often happen is, okay, then we just outsource the whole thing to an outside agency, one for social media, one for email, and then that becomes very disjointed. It starts to not feel like it's really from the brand, and then it starts to just like scatter the message so that there's like maybe a more generic like lifestyle social media strategy here, and then our emails like telling a different story. But it's really about creating the consistency and showcasing the brand as an entity that is within itself something that people can connect to. And
Mhm.
that's so we're really just trying to bring together in a more holistic way the customer journey itself and the way it feels for people to go through that journey. And then we'll work with the fulfillment team on maybe a little postcard or a handwritten note or something that like helps step up that experience depending on what the products are, because it's not
Mhm.
always a physical product. But um, so, in short, it's really the problem can be disjointed communications that
Mhm.
come from various different parts of the team. And we're here to bring it together and to make execution something that's doable and possible.
Awesome. And it sounds like you and your team would be great, especially for startup businesses, smaller businesses,
Absolutely.
maybe even mid-size, but not the big mega
Yeah.
Proctors and Gamble, but the little folks that can't afford to go hire the 15 people that we need to have that cohesive story, right?
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. It's definitely for more startups, even individuals who are looking for to do a personal brand. We see a lot now. There's whole brands built around people on social media, around their YouTube channels, around. I mean, I'm speaking to one right now that there's that you still create a small team around you to tell your
Mhm.
story and or have a product. And we see these things as like creative expressions of the individual or the group, and that they really do need those pieces brought together and put out in the world. And those bigger brands, they already have recognition. So their strategy is really different, like they get to kind of just say, here we are, we have a new product, or here's the newest flavor, or, and
Mhm.
people know who they are. But it's about building trust with the people who are newer, and that, but you want to let them see behind the scenes, because normally behind the scenes there's some amazing stories and amazing missions and things that drove the passion to create the products to begin with. So
Mm,
that's really what we want to help, help put it out in the world in a
yeah.
beautiful way.
So we've really got to kind of tell the story, then all
Yeah,
the background stories and such.
absolutely. Storytelling, I think, is a huge component, so important, and it brings the audience in, to the story, makes them feel like there's a reason to connect and a
Mm,
reason to build community, because that is part of the ultimate goal, is building community through
mm.
these stories and through these pieces of content, and really creating fans and loyal users of the brand.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome. So I'm curious to know this as well, especially when you mentioned community. So with I- AI becoming so prevalent, how
Yeah.
is that impacting your industry? And I certainly don't believe that AI is going to replace any of us humans because we all need a human element to everything. But I'd love to hear how that might be disrupting, improving, hindering, whatever the story might be in your industry.
Yeah, I think it's just such a moving target right now that it's hard to imagine truly what that will impact long term. But I agree with you that it's not going to replace anybody. I actually think it really helps us do research better. It helps us like check our logic sometimes, because humans have a lot of bias, and it sometimes can
Mhm.
take away the bias. It can also add bias, but I think when used right, it'll only help us kind of do more in less time. I think it can be like, I don't really believe in AI for writing, especially in blogging and things where people can identify AI sounding writing.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean you can't let it help you. That doesn't mean it can't be your writing partner or help you get over that, um, writer's block moment. Or so I think it's just actually going to increase our ability to create and express, and to, really find new and interesting ways to share information. I
Mhm.
think there's a lot of positive that can come from it. I think it's just a matter of how we use it. I do think in these early stages we're seeing it added to so many different apps, and in sometimes ways that are not so useful, that it's like it's almost useful but not quite. But even that said, even the time from when ChatGPT first came out to where it is now, some of the features and tools have become far, far more useful. And I do think that'll happen in video editing for sure. Like,
Mhm.
how much time a person has spent cutting out gaps between words in a video. Like, I feel like certain practices like that should get easier for us, because
Mhm.
there's no need to, like, everyone has better uses of their time, more strategic uses of their time, than doing some of those things that, can be definitely more tedious.
Mhm. Awesome. It's good to hear, the possibilities and just to even imagine what that might lead to down the road. But I love
Yeah,
the
I
idea
think it
of
will be
me having more
interesting.
time to be client facing versus doing the technical stuff. So, welcome back, everybody. It's rare that I get to say welcome two times in one presentation or podcast, but we had a little weather issue and internet issue during our last conversation with Olivia Martinez. So, welcome back today. And, Olivia, if we can pick up our conversation where we left off, I'd like for you to share with us What is the biggest challenge that you faced thus far in your life, whether that's personal or professional, and how has that shaped the way that you're doing business today?
Ah, that's a good one. I think I think that going from the a 9 to 5, like being an in-house worker, and then stepping out into the, self-employed space, and then going from there to actually having people help me with my business, and having, others that you're employing, it does do a bigger number on your entire like nervous system. And um it you think that you kind of know what you want and that you're just going for it, and that it'll be a beeline there. But when you actually like step into it, I do think there's like a visceral quality to the choices that feel more unsettling than I could have ever imagined, because there is a safety in having a physical space that you go to work to every day, that you have the protection of like owners, and certain benefits that you'll have to take care of yourself going forward, and getting in touch with the right people to help you with money, and make sure that you have all the insurances you need, and the business licenses, and the just everything that you never thought to think about before. It kind of just happened, and this was a driving force, and you wanted to do it. I do think it's quite more challenging on a visceral level. And then on top of that, I feel in 2022, I actually lost both my parents, like back to back, where not in the same situation, but just coincidentally 2 months from each other. And so I do think there's that additional layer of like, what happens when you feel kind of taken out of the game for a little while, and you really do now need to rely on that help, that support system. So it really just I feel like it's all just a test of strength, and
Mhm.
a test of your own will to just keep going, and also remembering that you have to keep going means you have to take yourself out of the constant progress mindset sometimes, because it's very healthy to pause. It's essential to pause and to take these moments and actually like feel the feelings, and to be with them, and then trust that support that you've set up for yourself, because you really have to surround yourself with very talented, very creative, helpful people in order to pick up the slack when you do need to pause
Mm.
and
Ooh,
keep going.
there's so much to unpack from what you just shared with us. So and my condolences for losing both your parents in
Absolutely.
such a short period of time. That had to have been tremendously difficult, and just the emotions of that while still running your business and being present and still taking care of yourself, just all of the things. But
Yeah,
I love the fact that you're sharing with us how we're surrounding ourselves with people that we really have to trust. And
absolutely.
if we're not trusting them, we're always going to be second guessing and doubting. So
Absolutely.
having those relationships where you've built trust and you know you can step away and take care of yourself, and
Absolutely.
they're going to continue to run. That's awesome. So thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
Well, I would love to know if you could have lunch with any human being, who would that be, whether they're living or deceased, and why?
I was pondering this one. I feel like there's so many good answers, but I would just have to say like Mal Robbins right now. Is she so amazing? And I just love her attitude, and her, just I love how much she's putting herself out in the world, and how many helpful. I think her communication strategy in itself is amazing, and how much she just puts herself out there. And I love the philosophies. I love the it's really all about, focusing on what you can and can't control. And that there's so many things out of our control that are out of our purview, and just staying focused on what you can. And I just think she would be a fun human, and funny, and yeah, just a wealth of knowledge and insight.
And luckily for all of us, she's still living, so we can make that
Yeah,
happen,
I
right?
know, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah,
and I think she and her vulnerability and it's just brilliant, because she's showing
mhm.
us who her real self, which I think is very, very valuable from a marketing perspective as well. So awesome.
Absolutely. Well,
Mhm,
and yeah, just I do think I heard someone talking about authenticity and how, you really have to love yourself in order to show up authentically in the
mm,
world.
mm,
And so having that you know, it's like you just have to remember that oxygen mask, because if you're not taking the time for yourself, then you're just not going to show up for the people that you love the way you want to, for yourself the way you want to. And I think that that's it. I do love that she is willing to share the dark times and the
mm,
difficult times and that perfection doesn't exist, right? You just keep going and you just keep refining and you do your best and you try to focus on what you can control at the end of the day.
mm. And
Right?
that's the best that we can do any day. So awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, I would love for you to share with our audience how they can contact you if they'd like to work with you, learn more about the work that you do.
Absolutely. Venuselements.com is the best place. You can just email me directly from there. It'll literally shoot the call to action buttons, just shoot me an email. And I get in touch with anyone within, 24 to 48 hours of a business day. I would reply back. And yeah, so just venuselements.com. And I'm always happy to have conversations. I feel like half the time I'll actually end up referring to other people, or if the solution is right, I can create something bespoke for the individual. But I really do feel like I'm in this to meet genuinely interesting brands who want to create something interesting and who enjoy the perspective that I share, as far as the creativity and the clarity and communication and just wanting to tell the story behind the brand. But there's also so many great solutions out there. And sometimes I'm not the place you need to go, but that there are other resources available to just really find the fit that's going to really take someone from where they are to the next level.
And I have to appreciate what you just shared with us too, Olivia, the fact that you may not be the right fit and that you're happy to connect people with the right people. That says a lot for you. You're not just trying to take on anybody as a client and force them into your
No,
thing.
yeah,
So
no, not at all. Because there's, yeah, we all need different things at different times. But I feel like you just really want to hear what someone is dealing with, what they're experiencing, and then seeing what the best solutions for them could be. Because I do think I was thinking later about our earlier question around the problem. you know, Probably the umbrella problem is it's expensive to run a business in
mhm.
2025. And so finding like taking the most essential actions that are going to help move the needle and not leave you in the weeds, I think is actually the end game.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, ladies, I hope that you'll feel comfortable reaching out to Olivia to get her expertise in building your business and your brand and getting you out in the world. So, Olivia, thank you so much for joining us again today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Nice talking.
I hope today's conversation left you feeling inspired, informed, and ready to take the next step in your financial journey. Remember, building wealth isn't just about money, it's also about creating a life that aligns with your goals and values. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with the women in your life who deserve financial empowerment too. Until next time, stay confident, stay empowered, and keep building the life you desire.